Hey everyone, Mango7Roll here, how we doing today? This is actually a video on merging, on making a plus 10 unit. One of my biggest regrets playing this game is not making this Noe so much sooner. And it's one of the biggest questions I get asked too, you know, like what should I be merging, what should I be doing, what to spend my feathers on? And I figure I'll give you guys my advice. Who knows if it's right or wrong, but it's what I think, and I'm pretty confident it's at least close to right, just from what this Noe has done to my overall experience to the game. So to start things off with, before I upgraded this Noe, I was having a lot of trouble with a lot of things. Like, certain things like Tempest Trials weren't as easy to auto if it came to it. Arena was really annoying. Boy, it sucked. I lost so many times. There were so many horses. Arena Assault was the same. It was almost like impossible for me to finish a run. And this is in the 696 to 706 range. This was the range I was in before. I'm not sure what that range is like now since it's been a while, but this is what I was in before I made this Noe. And I've been able to make her for a long time as well. In that 696 to 706 range, you're basically 100% against horses. There was a time where, I think I recorded it too, I probably have the footage somewhere, where I did 50 arena assaults in a row in that range. Just clicked in, clicked out, clicked in, clicked out to see what I was against. And I think it was something like 47 of those 50 units had at least 2 horses in it. And that is not a time, that's not something you want to do 7 times in a row, you know? But with this newfound Noe, and the rest of my team as well, which is actually kind of decently merged, a +4, a +2, and a +5. I'm able to hit in the 716 to 724 range, and that is so much more fun. Like, it's not even a comparison. I am having like 1,000 times more fun in Arena Assault. I actually enjoy doing it. I love doing Arena Assault now. I don't care if I lose. It's so much fun now. Before, if I lose, it's to like Reinhardt getting danced and one-shotting somebody. It's to trying to bait it, failing, dying. It's to Reinhardt repositioning out of the way and everything going terrible from there. It's losing to horse shenanigans, and it wasn't fun for me, especially since I didn't have the counters built. But now, in this range, it is so much fun. I'm able to use so many different units of mine. I'm basically always against something different. Yes, you're going to face more armors, you're going to face more dragons, you're going to face more things like that, but they're doable, they're predictable, they're fun. And then you also run into shenanigans like +10 Laszlo's and +10 everything you can possibly think of you run into. It's such variation, and it's so much fun compared to before, and I really hope this hypes you guys up to do a +10 unit, because I think you should. It is such a difference in the gameplay. Not only from a fun perspective, you're also going to have an easier time in Tempest Trials, you're going to have an easier time in Arena, you're going to have an easier time in Arena Assault, you're also going to get more rewards because you place higher just from the fact that you're placing 722 instead of 606, or maybe 715 to 716 if you don't have the other half-decent merges to go with it. And this goes to show, especially on my account, I summon a lot, I spend a decent amount of money, and my best unit is basically a free-to-play unit. It is my Noe here by far, and the hilarious part about the Noe is her skill inheritance is terrible. Like, absolutely abysmal. One of the worst builds you can use in the entire game, I would say. Triangle Adept literally does nothing. She already bodies every single red she could ever face. So all Triangle Adept does is give me a 20% disadvantage against all green units. That's literally what it does. Renewal is not the best either. Threaten res stays the same. And what I'm trying to get at is you don't even need to give baller skill inheritance to get worth out of these. And a lot of people don't know which units to use either, which one's the +10, and my general thoughts on that is do whatever you love. Find a unit you love and give them some love and build everything around them. Yes, if that unit happens to be Nino, or happens to be Laszlo, or happens to be, why am I picking on Laszlo? Poor Luke. Happens to be Rai, happens to be Sophia, any of these, Henry even, you're gonna score a little less than somebody whose favorite happens to be Effie. But oh well, I think it's worth it in the long run, especially once you get to the point of having 2 +10s, then you're set. You're in tier 20 forever basically, unless you don't finish a run for some reason. So give some love back to your game. Stop worrying about spending resources, can't believe I'm saying that, and at least get a +10 out there. Make that your next mission, and if you have any questions on who to do or why to do it, please ask. I'm in the Discord all the time, I'm on Twitter, give me a shout, let me give you some feedback. But in all honesty, if you love a unit, go for it. So I'm gonna go through a couple units I've looked at personally to +10, and why I did, and maybe some builds I thought about doing it. Hopefully this will give you some ideas as well. Also in my unit spotlights, I try to look at least one unit that is primarily free to play, as in obtainable in a reasonable amount of time from a free-to-play player, and all it takes them is, of course, the 200,000 feathers. There is a +10 Tharja. I don't know if I've looked at it yet, but there's a +10 Tharja that scores awesomely as well, and she just destroys FaZe, so that's one of the ones on my list to do. So let's take a look here at one of the ones I plan on maybe doing to +10, and that is Cheetah. We're also going to take a look at two of the resources I use to do these. The first one here is the URL right at the top. It's Unit Builder, and I really like this one just because it's visual. It shows me their characters on the left, and that just makes me happy for some reason. The reason why we're going with Cheetah is because, one, I think she's fantastic with her refine now. Her BST is not too high, but who cares about that when you're +10? I mean, I care about it, obviously. It makes a big difference, but it's good enough that it doesn't matter. She's also broken my pity rate 3 times, so maybe that's kind of pushing me in the right direction. And I think she's really good for the +10 meta, considering her effectiveness against armored units. So let's talk about two things first before we get started, and the first one is Arena, BST, and Bin, and all that sort of thing. When it comes to Super Boons and Banes, which is when a unit gets +4 or -4 on their stats, so for example here on the left we see we have 59 attack, and if we switch our IV to AP instead, we're down to 55, so this means Cheetah has a Super Boon in HP, which is really good. On a +10 unit, you really kind of want to eke out every little bit of arena scoring as possible when you're not hurting your character to do so. So because this is +4 in her attack, that makes her score slightly better in some cases than if it was +3. The same goes with if it was -4 instead, which is kind of why you want to stay away from Super Banes, even if it's her worst stat, or best stat to dump, I should say, just because you don't want to get hit by that -4 in one stat. Doesn't make too much difference whatsoever, but if you can eke out a little bit without really hurting her, then why not? So this is why we went with plus attack. Phoenix Master 1 does an awesome video on bins and BST, so if you want to do that, just do a Google search for him, and he explains it very perfectly. Anyway, moving on here to the build and how I set this up. So first things first, I set up Summoner Support because she's going to be Summoner supported at +10, just to see what it's like. I went with the Wing Sword Refine because that's why you're using Cheetah to begin with. The effective damage on her Wing Sword is just insane. I also went back and forth between Life and Death build with Desperation, Fortified Flyers, and some sort of Seal, I'm not sure what yet. Between Life and Death and a Distant Counter build that kind of worked on baiting and surviving counterattack hits with IOT Shield as well. We tried out on Kabuto Chart here, which is also in the link below, how this would work against a +10 Hector with buffs as well, and we also had buffs for ourselves. This is +10 Wary Fighter, plus attack, minus speed, perfect IVs, just here to fight Hector, and we managed to get the victory here. We see effectiveness against armored boots, attack by 50%, weapon triangle advantage as well, for 61 damage for the one shot here. And if we use something like a Distant Counter instead, we can see that Hector ends up winning this fight. And while that's not entirely a super huge problem, there's like a very little chance a green armor is going to survive against Cheetah, and this just happens to be one of them, and we can always separate them and get the kill after. This is still something to look at, and one of the reasons why you might choose Life and Death 3 or Deathglow, I think, would work just as good or better instead of Distant Counter. So that's a really good example of trying to decide if your unit can handle DC and if your unit can handle Life and Death. So one last thing to talk about here is we tried to see if we can handle archers with this unit. We gave her Eye Out Shield, and we tried to see if we could survive the popular archers, Jacob, Lynn, Cordelia, basically any plus 10 Brave War archers, and it turns out we can't. We just get slaughtered by them. So if we're going to use Distant Counter on this unit, even with Eye Out Shield, we're only going to be able to tank red and green tomes, and quite possibly maybe a blue tome here and there, depending on if they double. While this is still fantastic, it means we need to change our entire skill set. We won't handle the green armors as well, so we need to fix that. Since that's Cheetah's primary objective, we want to guarantee those kills. So one of the ways we can do that is instead tossing Axebreaker into her B and then giving her a +3 Sacred Seal to make up for that life and death, just to kind of help her Flashing Blade out. Anyway, this turns Cheetah into two very different units. On one hand, she's an offensive powerhouse. On the other hand, she's also an offensive powerhouse, but she can handle enemy phase just slightly better and player phase just slightly worse. So that's about all I wanted to talk about today. I will be doing this as sort of a series where I look at a couple units every week, and we can maybe build some +10s out of that and try to figure out where they work, just like we did with Cheetah with Distant Counter and Life and Death. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day. If this helped you out or entertained you, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and leave a comment down below if you have any questions or concerns with this Cheetah or any unit you plan on +10ing. So have a great day. Bye, everybody.